All right, so thank you so much, Christina, for being a part of the Wellness Moonshot interview. I think, as you know, because you've been very much a part of the Global Wellness Institute and all the initiatives and activities and the way the Institute is really spreading the message to empower wellness worldwide. The Wellness Moonshot Initiative is a very audacious goal to create a world free of preventable disease. So that's huge. That's huge. And it's going to take all of us to be a part of that goal. Every month, we talk about a particular topic and to support people, wellness leaders, in being inspired and having more tools and resources to advance wellness wherever they are. This month, our topic is ready. And as you and I prepared for this conversation, one of the connections you made to, how do we strategically ready ourselves was the power of space. And so I want to hear from you because I don't know what's in your mind in regards to space. And I am so curious as to what you're thinking as far as what does it mean to strategically ready ourselves to be a wellness leader and make space for that. One of the reasons I love the word space is because of the wellness moonshot itself, being in the moon. So tell me more about space. What does that mean to you?
Thanks so much, Renee. So thanks so much also for connecting that word space with the moon, because that's how I got inspired with space for this month's feature on Ready. So I saw that the Wellness Moonshot calendar had a quote from JFK, John F. Kennedy, back in 1962, when he was challenging the US to land someone on the moon. So he said, "We choose to go to the moon because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone." So, as I was looking to share an innovative perspective to well-being that's relevant to our times in this day and age, and one that's also relevant to the Wellness Moonshot slogan, I basically thought, okay, the slogan is a world free of preventable disease. And Renee, you and I discussed about that word. We wonder how many people actually know the history behind the word, because disease, as you know, if we were to separate it, the dis from the ease, is actually at the very core of the original meaning of the word, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So, yes, I wonder how many people know that it's actually referring literally to a lack of ease or comfort, rather than how we are used to seeing it today being used to refer to sickness or problems, physiologically, or whatever way, mentally as well. And so disease can still today be used to mean uncomfortable, but there's usually a hyphen in that case. And so that word disease is actually originally only a sum of its parts. And, you know, for me, it's about how can we strategically be navigating through change to embrace greater ease and comfort in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about then dis-ease, and I love that reframe of the word, I think it's actually a very powerful one, um,
Mhm.
particularly from an internal perspective. How can we show up in a different way within our own lives and work? How do you connect that with space? So you've put a space between dis and ease. So tell me how you've connected the dots between disease, ready, and then space, the concept of space itself.
Absolutely. So, taking the word of lack of ease or comfort as the kind of original meaning of disease, um, I looked at the organizational change model that is often used, because I'm also working in HR as a senior HR professional. So there was a model actually called Managing Transitions by William Bridges, which is often used in organizational development and change management, as you may know. And there are three steps in this transition. So the three steps are, firstly, ending, that's like kind of losing or letting go. And then the second step is the neutral zone before the third step, which is about new beginnings. And I see that the model highlights also, the 3 stages of transition that people go through when they experience change. And so for me, the central zone, the neutral zone, is that space where we might be going through some discomfort as we're ending the first stage. First stage is often marked by quite a lot of negative emotions. As we know, set in the context of the pandemic, there's a lot of fear, denial, anger, sadness, frustration, all that disorientation. And as we step into the new world, a new hybrid world of being and living and collaborating with each other, trying to generate more care and kind of compassion for our fellow beings, we need to step through that neutral zone first, because that neutral zone is where it all happens. It's that space between the old and the new, and that bridge between the two worlds. And if I'm also coming from the yogic background, Renee, and I know that you're a keen yoga practitioner as well. So I found some really fun phrases to go with each of these phases in the model. So the ending we can think of as letting go. Letting go is the hardest asana, the hardest posture to perform. And a lot of people I see are still, ingrained in that, right? It's just about moving on from that. How do we extract ourselves from past without necessarily stamping out the past, but to take from it any learnings, experiences, however painful they may be, or experiences that we treasure to move forward with as we step into the future. And then that space, the neutral zone in between the old and new worlds, I think it's a space of just breathing. That space to align psychologically as we prepare ourselves, our mindset, our being, to step into that new world of realities. And so actually here, I found a really nice quote by Anne Frank, one of the most well-known victims of the Holocaust. And she said, "I don't think of all the misery, but of all the beauty that still remains." And as I speak, Renee, that sends shivers up my spine, because in that neutral zone, as Bridges coined it, people have the capacity to feel the negative emotions and the positive. And more often, people are in a negative space of resentment towards change because, at its core, we humans don't like uncertainty, right? We prefer what we know, even if it might be uncomfortable. And that's a state where there's a lot of anxiety and skepticism about the change, perhaps, what that might result in. And we saw a lot of that as we were going through the pandemic and repeated cycles of ups and downs, right? Mm-hmm. And then yet that there is also kind of the space to be positive with our emotions, to be constructive, and to already be designing our new future. So I've actually set out the A to Z of change. So we can maybe for fun later on pick up some of these to have an exchange about and explore them. But I think it's that space of creation. If we can visualize what we want, because this whole episode that we've been through as a world is a huge wake-up call for us as humanity, as we go through more challenges, whether natural or imposed by humanity, to really kind of be looking at what the big picture is. What is our goal? What do we envision? And what you said earlier, Renee, is about all of us making it happen, right? Mm-hmm. So rather than be waiting for the leaders, whoever they are, and however respectful or not we are of them, to make things change, it's down to us individually in our own capacity as leaders in our own lives, in our own field, to make that change happen. So if we can then each play a part in it, I think that that's just enormous in terms of its cumulative mass impact. So that's a space of great creativity, innovation, and renewal that we can really tap into constructively and positively if we wish to and intend to, in that space of the neutral zone. And it's time to really engender that towards a new beginning. And then when we go into that, towards that new beginning, my yogic mantra for that is inhale the future. Let's inhale together. and then exhale the past. And when I was coining this space A to Z to sit between the past and the future, the old and the new beginnings, I recollected that actually, in the yogic breath, and we talk a lot about breathing in the GWI, the Global Wellness Institute, there's also the breathing initiative. I remembered that, some of the past yogis were able to really utilize their breath, that space between the breaths, to tap into a new reality, not a new reality in that sense, but to gain a different perspective. And that's a space where inspiration comes. And, that's a space of like true connection, because it's like kind of about how everything hangs together. And that's the space which is often forgotten. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to say here is that, as we step through into the new future, new ways of working and being with each other, we could be going through more changes, because changes are a norm now, and they could be really very unsettling and can create a lot of disequilibrium. And if we can, at each moment of change in whatever aspect of our life it is, tap back into that neutral zone, mm-hmm. to bridge what we're coming out of, whether it's a relationship that's not working, or kind of a job that's not working, or whatever else it is in life. Let go of that, take our learnings, and before we step into the new beginning, come into that space of the neutral zone and tap into it and gain the richness and learnings, inspiration to step into creating our new future that we desire. We would be ready for a much better world.
Mm-hmm. I so agree, but I want to ask you about your really interesting model from A to Z, talking about space. But before I do that, I kind of want to just summarize what I'm hearing. First off, what I'm feeling is a sense of spaciousness in my chest as you speak, just a sense of relaxation and calm as you speak about it. And what I'm hearing is, when it comes to being a wellness leader, first off, leadership is not a title or a role, it's all of us. So it's a way of being in the world that can support a healthier, more well world. And that contributes greatly. Just that alone, stepping into that sense of leadership, that self leadership, just that orientation alone will help us go far in creating a world free of preventable disease and creating a world of health and wellness. So that's the first thing I'm hearing. Second is, in this model, and I love Bridges' model. I've used it for years as well. I adore it because it's so, it's more organic than the more mechanistic change models that say step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. This one says we have to let go of the old and be in the space of acceptance. And then as we move into that phase of not knowing what's going to be our future, being in this space of compassion, like real compassion, and just being able to be in that, the depth of that, and the insights and wisdom we can gain from that. And then that third phase of being in a space of generativity, so that we can so that we can create our future, but create it not from stress and reactivity, but from this sense of spaciousness or space that you're talking about. So I love the connections between all of that and us preparing, readying ourselves to create a better future. And as wellness leaders, I think that is really fundamental. It's an essential way of being. I also very much appreciate, Christina, the yogic practices that you provided, just the embodiment practices for each one of those phases, because those are very beautiful practices that can help people tap into not just the intellectual concept, but what does this mean in my felt experience? What can I do in my felt experience? So thank you for weaving all of that together, because I think that was really beautiful, the way that you were weaving that together with the sense of reframing disease to our sense of dis-ease, dis-ease with ourselves, dis-ease with our relationships, dis-ease with our planet, dis-ease within our organizations, and how we can bring a sense of wholeness and integration and kind of coherence back, that reconnection through space. So I want to hear about this model you have, this really fun model from A to Z. And I actually would love to pick a few letters for myself. So this will be you helping me today as a wellness
Absolutely.
leader. So I'm going to pick a few letters, and then I just want to listen to you share the insights about those letters, because it sounds like you have from A to Z different wisdom for each letter related to ways that we can bring about more spaciousness and prepare ourselves, ready ourselves as wellness leaders. So I pick,
Absolutely, Renee. Just before you pick,
sure,
there are two that have already gone because you've already anticipated them.
okay, okay.
Shall
What
I
are
share
those?
with you?
Sure, sure.
So there are B and W. B for bliss, the sense of being in bliss,
Okay.
and then W for wisdom.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. All right. So I would love to pick, I'm going to pick three.
All right.
There will be D, R,
Mhm.
M.
All right. Let me just highlight them. So it's D and then R,
R and M.
M for mother.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
And
So
I am going to accept whatever insights come from you as what I need to pay attention to today.
oh, beautiful. All
Yeah.
right, Renee. So let's take a breath in, space, and then exhale. So the first one that you picked, D, Renee, is for deep diving.
Hmm.
So diving and exploring into situations that are really kind of proving to be challenging or an issue, because sometimes it can be that whatever is proving challenging in that moment is a kind of wake up call to address parts within ourselves that might be feeling uncomfortable with something.
Mhm.
So looking for the lessons in that. I don't know how that resonates with you. It's
I
just
love
a
it.
little
I
bit
love
of
it.
fun.
There's so many wonderful things happening, and there are some things that are, I would not call them difficulties as much, the challenges is a better word, that
Mm-hmm.
they seem to be calling me to walk around them in a whole new way. And so this
Mm.
driving, that feels right on as far as what I find myself doing. That's great.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, and I guess quite often in life, when things are coming up, then it's an opportunity for us to go deeper in rather than we can move on to the next thing. So I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And the next one is M for musing.
Hmm.
So Renee, you and I were speaking about what topic I could talk about, and I was saying that I wanted to come up with something innovative. And for me, that space of creativity is what I get into when I step into literally that space, when I'm just moving away from doing into opening up into receiving any insights. So it's kind of musing over, some of the words that were coming up for me. And that's how I landed with the A to Z of space. So I think sometimes it helps to step back and reflect.
Hmm.
How do you resonate with that today?
Yeah, what really hits me for my own life is how often my days are so overstructured that there's not enough room to muse, to really let that creative energy come forth. And yet, when it does come forth, pardon me, when it does come forth, it will be when I'm going on a hike, or when I'm drying my hair, or when I'm, taking a shower, or on those times where my brain is not on top of work or on top of any topic. And I've really learning at this phase in my life, kind of at this juncture in my own life and leadership, to create more, to structure in more space, like to literally
Mm,
plan strategic reflection time, for example,
mm,
just a practice I do, so that I'll just block out these few hours. And that may mean, okay, that's when I'm going to go for a hike. But I know now not to overstructure the day because otherwise it feels like I miss some of the best insights that I'll have. And I have those through more of that generative time.
wonderful. That's
That,
beautiful.
that definitely resonates.
All right, great. Are you ready for your third
I
one?
am. What's the
Okay,
R?
that's the R, and you get a double dose of it. So double R, so resting and recovering.
Okay, this one I'm not as good at. So, all right. This is one I can work on. So, tell me about rest and recovery.
Well, resting and recovering just as it is, really. I think we're very much as a society at risk of running from one thing to the other and not giving ourselves time to just step back from situations and allow our body and mind and emotions to just calm down and rest and get back into equilibrium,
Mhm.
right? Because it's all about harnessing the reserves of our nervous system and also, an obvious way for gaining our immunity as well, if we can just step back and be a bit more passive to allow the body and its whole system to regenerate.
Mhm. This is one that I have become so much more aware of. And I said I wasn't good at it. That's actually old language. I'm better at it. I should say it that way. I would say
Mm-hmm.
a decade of my 40s, I wasn't as good at it. The decade of my 50s, I have been so much better at it. And we actually measure it. We have an assessment that we measure. One of the things we measure is resting as fuel, and it's interesting
Uh-huh.
to see how often the leaders we're working with will score low in this area, not knowing how to strategically use rest as a way to manage stress effectively, a way to manage energy, a way to thrive in life and work overall. So that connection, I'm totally agreeing with you. That connection in our cultures around the world, so not just Western cultures, but cultures around
Mm-hmm.
the world. I think there's a disconnect often between the power of
Yes.
rest as a strategy, as a tool for showing up effective as a leader, but also as a whole human being, as a whole human being. So I'm glad you brought that one up. And that's a great reminder for me personally, too. Yeah.
I'm so glad as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
something that I keep reminding myself of too. I think we all do, right? If we're honest about it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's in our
Yeah.
consciousness, it's in our larger consciousness that rest is
Mhm.
not always legitimized. And now, finally, with the pandemic, I think we're having more conversation about the power of rest and well-being.
Mhm.
Rest, sleep, non-sleep, deep rest practices, yoga nidra, all of that. So I think that's really terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Christina. And I appreciate the personal counsel for me, the personal counsel you provided me.
You're
So,
so welcome, Renee. May I just share a quote?
yes, please do.
So I decided to have fun with JFK's quote and rephrase it for the purposes of our interview today. So for me, I would say we should be aiming to go to the space because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept,
Mm,
one that we are unwilling to postpone.
beautiful.
It's that space that creates energy. And if we couple that with our kind of orientation towards what we want to achieve and our vision for the future of humanity, then it is absolutely priceless to step into that space and spend a little bit of time there before we move on.
Mhm.
So, just to tap back into the theme of the month, are we ready to let go? Are we ready to just breathe?
Mhm.
And are we ready to step into space?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for bringing us back to our original theme and our original time together. I really appreciate everything you're doing. I know that you are operating in many different avenues, not only through the Global Wellness Institute, but as an HR executive yourself in a global company. And I know you're doing work all over the world. So I'm just very appreciative of what you're up to. And thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your wisdom with this
Thanks,
global
Renee.
wellness moonshot community.
Thank you so much, Renee. And I just wanted to say a final word also. I also thank my company, ABB, that I work for, which is a Fortune 500 company, which is doing amazing things out there, for encouraging me to come on this interview and to share my views
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, Christina.
from my personal perspective, of course. All right. Thanks so much, Renee.
You too.